Good day everyone. Today we will be talking about the religion of Islam. Our objectives: to know the origin of Islam, identify the foundation of Islam, discuss the conduct and practices of the people who follow Islam. We have also guide questions in order for us to easily understand the lesson. How Islam religion started? What are the foundational sources of Islamic beliefs and practices? What are the major beliefs of Muslims? Okay, to start with, Islam is an Abrahamic, monotheistic religion teaching that there is only one God. In Arabic, they called him Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of God. It is the world's second largest religion with over 1.8 billion followers, or 24% of the world's population, most commonly known as Muslims. The word Islam is derived from an Arabic word which means submission, surrender, or obedience. A secondary derivative of the Arabic word is peace. Taken together, Islam means that one can only achieve peace through complete submission to the will of God as revealed to his prophet Muhammad. The God of Islam is called Allah. The word Muslim means a follower or one who is submitted to Allah and Islam as revealed in the Quran and the sayings and practices called Sunnah of Muhammad recorded in the Hadith. Their founder, Muslims believe that Islam is a faith that has always existed and that it was gradually revealed to humanity by a number of prophets such as Jesus, David, Moses, Abraham, Noah, and Adam. But the final complete revelation of the faith was made through the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century CE. Muhammad was born in Mecca in Saudi Arabia in 570. Born approximately 570 CE, year of the elephant, in the Arabian city of Mecca, Muhammad was orphaned at the age of 6. He was raised under the care of his paternal grandfather, Abd al-Muttalib, and upon his death by his uncle Abu Talib. In later years, he would periodically seclude himself in a mountain cave named Hira for several nights of prayer. When he was 40, Muhammad reported being visited by Gabriel in the cave and receiving his first revelation from God. 3 years later, in 610, Muhammad started preaching these revelations publicly, proclaiming that God is one, that complete submission, or they called Islam, to God is the right way of life, and that he was a prophet and messenger of God, similar to the other prophets in Islam. The sacred texts in Islam faith are two: the Quran, also spelled as Quran with a K or O, and the Hadith, or with a double E. These books teach and illustrate the Islamic beliefs, values, and practices. They are also important historical documents, especially in Quran, which tell the story of the origins of the Islamic faith. The Quran is the most sacred text, as it is believed to be the literal word of God as revealed to Muhammad. The word Quran means recitation in Arabic. Most of the Quran is written in the first person plural, with Allah as the speaker. When Muhammad himself speaks, his words are introduced by say to clarify he is being commanded by Allah to speak. Hadith. The sacred text called the Hadith, which is Arabic for narrative or report, is a record of Islamic tradition. It is a record of the words and deeds of the Prophet Muhammad, his family, and his companions. It is the second most important text in Islam next to the Quran. Although not regarded as the spoken word of God like the Quran, the Hadith is an important source of doctrine, law, and practice. It is revered in Islam as a major source of religious law and moral guidance, and has been studied in Muslim religious colleges since the Middle Ages by both male and female scholars. The word Hadith technically refers to a single piece of tradition. A Hadith is the Arabic plural, but in English, it is used to refer to the entire body of Muslim tradition as well. The doctrines of Islam is first, God. Muslims believe that Allah is one, the only true God. To associate a partner with God, as they perceive the Christians' doctrine of the Trinity as doing, is to commit the unpardonable sin of shirk, He is absolute in his omnipotence and so wholly other that it is impossible to have a personal relationship with him. Islam also believes in angels. These are created spirit beings often called Allah's messengers in the Quran. Every human is assigned 2 angels to record his good and bad deeds. At the lower end of angelic hierarchy are jinn, most of whom are evil and can possess humans. Jesus is also important in the Doctrines. Regarded as a great prophet, born of the Virgin Mary, Jesus was sinless, performed miracles, and was given the title of Messiah. But Islam vehemently denies that Jesus was divine or the Son of God. They also deny that Jesus was crucified. Allah's prophet would not undergo such humiliation, and therefore was not resurrected. Instead, he was taken up into heaven or the paradise and will come again from heaven, defeat the Antichrist, confess Islam, break all crosses, and establish a millennium of righteousness. Another one in their doctrine is salvation. In Islam, salvation is a complex issue and there are varying perspectives. In general, salvation involves overcoming the effect of one's personal mistakes, the weaknesses, and unforgetfulness, with a view of attaining paradise by obedience and conformity to the straight path of Islam. Islam rejects original sin and the substitutionary atonement of Christ. Balancing the scales is prominent in Islam, salvation requiring that one's good deeds outweigh one's bad deeds. Paradise in Islam means enjoying sensual pleasures, including being served by numerous virgins. Paradise is promised for those who die, martyrdom, serving the cause of Allah. One's fate is entirely in the hands of Allah, and Allah requires a true and perfect understanding of, and a devotion of one's life to, the cause and law of Allah. These laws are known through Muhammad's revelation in the Quran and his pattern of life called Sunnah, recorded in the Hadith. If Allah decides to send a Muslim to hell, he can be punished there for his sins and then go to the paradise afterward. Unbelievers are sent to hellfire for eternity. A common misconception is that Allah is the name of deity worshipped exclusively by Muslims. In fact, Muslims hold that Allah is the God of Abraham, the same God worshipped by Jews, Baha'i, and Christians, whom they claim created the universe and will be judged as man in the day of judgment. Indeed, Arabic-speaking Jews and Christians refer to God as Allah, and use the word Allah in their holy text. As further proof, there is an Islamic tradition that no longer version of Allah is Allahumma, which is an obvious cognate with the Hebrew Elohim used in the Hebrew Bible. Unlike the Christians and Jews who generally refer to God as male, Allah is neither male nor female. In fact, it is a specific blasphemy to call Allah male or female. Allah is at one time both and neither. Because of the nature of Arabic, when a pronoun for Allah is used, it must be the male pronoun, wa, but this is based on the gender of the word and not the fact that it is a male thing. Sunni and Shiite are one of the examples of the sects of the Islam's religions. Muslims include 84% to 90% of all Muslims. They called Sunni means tradition, and Sunnis regard themselves as those who emphasize following the traditions of Muhammad and of the first 2 generations of the community of Muslims that followed Muhammad. A number of movements to reform Islam have originated mainly in the 20th century. Some are limited to one country and others have a broader influence. Most are Sunni movements such as Wahhabis, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Jama'at-e-Islam. The Shiite Muslims comprise 10% to 16% of all Muslims. Shiites are the party of Ali, who believe that Muhammad's son-in-law, Ali, was his designated successor, or the Imam, and that the Muslim community should be headed by a designated descendant of Muhammad. 3 main subgroups of Shiites are Twelvers, Itna Asharis, Seveners, Ismailis, and Fivers, Saidis. The other sects are Sufis, Islamic mystics. Sufis go beyond the external requirements of the religion to seek a personal experience of God through forms of meditation and spiritual growth. A number of Sufi orders, comparable to Christian monastic orders, exist. Most Sufis are also Sunni Muslims, although some are Shiite Muslims. Many conservative Sunni Muslims regard Sufism as a corruption of Islam, although most still regard Sufis as Muslims. The other sects are Baha'is and Ahmadiyyas, 19th century offshoots of Shiite and Sunni Islam respectively. Baha'is consider themselves the newest of the major religions, but recognize that historically they originated from Shiite Islam in the same way that Christianity originated from Judaism. Ahmadiyyas do regard themselves as Muslims. Most other Muslims, however, deny that either group is a legitimate form of Islam and regard members of both groups as heretics, people who have corrupted and abandoned Islamic belief and practice. Thus, Alawis and Alawis are small, sectarian groups with unorthodox beliefs and practices that split off from Islam. Druze and Alawis do not regard themselves as Muslims, are not considered Muslims by other Muslims. Alawis have various non-Islamic practices, but debate continues as to whether they should still be considered Muslims. In the Islam religion, there are some issues like number 1, objects of criticism include the morality of the life of Muhammad, the founder of Islam, both in his public and personal life. Second one is issues relating to the authenticity and morality of the constitutional scriptures of Islam. Both the Quran and the Hadiths are also discussed by critics. Islam has also been viewed as a form of Arab imperialism and has received criticisms by figures from Africa and India for what they perceive as the destruction of indigenous cultures. And the last issue is the human rights in the Islamic world, both historically and in the modern Islamic nations, including the treatment of women, LGBT people, and religious and ethnic minorities as events in Islamic law and practice. And what is another important on Islam religion are, if you can notice, the veiling. The word hijab is Arabic for cover. Some Muslims required that women cover every part of their body and hide their faces behind a veil, while others define veiling as covering the hair in public. Veiling was a pre-Islamic practice in Arabia and is no longer universal among Muslim women. One important thing for them is they call jihad. The literal meaning of jihad is a struggle or effort, and it means much more than holy war. Muslims use the word jihad to describe 3 different kinds of struggle: a believer's internal struggle to live out the Muslim faith as well as possible, greater jihad; the struggle to build a good Muslim society; and the last one is a holy war, the struggle to defend Islam with force if necessary, lesser jihad. When Muslim or their faith or territory are under attack, Islam permits the believer to wage military war to protect them. However, Islamic Sharia law sets very strict rules for the conduct of such a war. Okay, another very important in Islam is the 5 pillars. 5 requirements are made for all Muslims. These are called the 5 pillars of Islam. Number 1, kalma recitation. 2, namaz-i panhagana or panjagana. Number 3, zakat. 4, roza, and 5, hajj. Kalma recitation, to declare that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his Rasul, Prophet or Messenger. Number 2, namaz ipanhagana. It is the participation in 5 periods of prayer each day. Number 3, zakat, the payment of an obligatory tax to the needy. Then 4, roza, mandatory fasting during the month of Ramadan. And 5, hajj, pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in the lifetime of a Muslim, if possible.